Hello, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the stream. Hope everybody is doing good today. So yeah, we've got something a little bit different today. So I've got a little bit of a ate something at lunch, I think, and slightly choking a bit. So I've got my coffee here to try and stop me coughing on screen. But don't worry, it's not a COVID-19 thing. It's one of those, you know, when you eat something and you've got something a little bit sort of stuck in your throat that won't go away. So yes, but anyway, can people confirm that the audio is working? Hopefully the audio and video is all going. I see we've got some people come in on the chat. Yep, Yamini says it's working. Fantastic. And not only is the audio working, that also means my little chat is working. So if you have a look up here, I've got the chat now showing up in the video. Now the idea behind that is once I finish streaming, the videos then get taken off and I put them on YouTube or Cinnamon or one of the video streaming sites. And the problem being is you then lose the chat, so you kind of lose the context. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody, you kind of lose the context there. So I've got it to render just a little bit of the chat up there just so that I can see it, and also we can discuss it, and what I'm talking about may make sense rather than just me appearing to talk to, you know, thin air. So anyway, so we've got something a little bit different today. I mentioned a lot about Call for Code, which is this IBM initiative regarding climate change and COVID-19. And this is a fantastic thing to get involved in. There's a $200,000 grand prize. And the idea is it's a competition for people to get teams together to work on projects. So it might be projects to do with things like trying to predict rainfall, for example, for crop sustainability, or it might be to do with communication during the event of a crisis. Lots of different things. And submissions are open until the end of next month, the end of July. So you have just over 2 months to get things in. So definitely check it out, callforcode.org. And it's a great initiative there. There's a lot of IBM technology that you can use, a lot of sort of demo templates you can start with. But as well as that project, there's also a thing called Grant for the Web. Now, Grant for the Web is nothing to do with IBM, but it's an initiative that's being set up, another proposal that's being run, and it's a thing in conjunction between Creative Commons, Mozilla, and a company called Coil, and it is regarding web monetization. So it's a protocol. WM is a protocol that is built into modern web browsers now that allows web browsers to transparently pay for content. And along with this, now this is a grant as well that's open, and I think closing for proposals is in about the next 2 weeks, I think. And again, they've got a fund of money, so they've got $100 million in total, and they're funding for proposals regarding projects to do with web monetization. So they're looking for content creators, people that are looking to create content. So it might be, even things like new ways of monetizing games or documentaries or whatever it might be, instructional web content, cartoons, whatever. Or it can be to do with technology. So it can be to do with protocols and ways in which web monetization can work, things like wallets for sending currency backwards and forwards. In conjunction with this, one of the projects they're doing is with a site called Dev. Now, Dev, why have I got this? Oh, that's because I've mistyped it, dev.to. So, and this is where the kind of two worlds slightly collide. So Dev is a bit like, say, a site like Medium or Coil. It's a blogging site, but specifically aimed towards developers and developer advocates. Now, Dev themselves are looking to implement web monetization on their site. So the idea being is that when you start creating content on Dev, you'll be able to put in what's called a payment pointer. And when people who are subscribers who have a web monetization wallet set up through possibly a third party like Coil, they can access the site, and their browser will be transparently paying the content creator. The whole idea behind this is to get rid of adverts. Well, one of the ideas is to get rid of adverts, because the problem with adverts are that the more an advertising company knows about you, the more valuable you are to sell adverts to. So if they know I'm just an anonymous user that they want to show an advert to, that is less valuable than if they know I'm a 43-year-old male who lives in Bristol, who likes technology, who likes coffee. Then I'm more valuable to them because they know what adverts they can sell me, so they can target adverts to me more specifically. So Dev are looking to put Coil in because it's a good way for them to help not only monetize their site, but allow content creators to monetize their content. Now, as part of that, they are now creating a hackathon. And this hackathon is open until the end of this week. And it's a hackathon. This is going to get a bit meta here. Picture of me on here. But it's a hackathon between Grant for the Web and Dev for just small little projects. And they've got a couple of small little prizes there. The top prizes actually have some money. There's I think $2,000. I think it's the top prize. But they've got some swag available and credit for swag in their store. But their idea is to come up with some things to do with web monetization. And so they've got this hashtag here, Grant for the Web GFTW hackathon, and there's a bunch of really interesting projects that people have been working on for this. So monetizing Electron apps. What else is in here? Uma Voice. So this is another project here about pronunciation. So how do you pronounce words, for example? If English is not your first language, how do you pronounce words? So somebody's come up with this, but how would they monetize it? How would it pay for its costs? And so one of the ways is using this web monetization standard. So there's a lot of great ideas. Go on to dev.to and have a look at the ideas there. There's some brilliant ones there. But so I've been trying to think of an idea myself as to what I would put on here, and I came up with an idea. So I love Twitter. I'm on Twitter quite a lot. Twitter's fantastic for communicating, both for content around development and technology, also things like politics and general life, and communicating with communities, especially at the moment when everybody's working a lot more remotely. So it's great. But there can be a lot of anguish on there. There can be a lot of anger, especially over the last couple of days. The last couple of days, following events in the US, things have been going on there. This is the kind of things that have been going on worldwide for many, many years. And in the US, certainly issues around race have been an issue for many, many years going back, and things have been bubbling over a lot. Anyway, I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a way such that you could have a view of your timelines in Twitter, a view of your timeline, but maybe we could filter the tweets. What if we could just see the tweets that were joyful, and we removed the tweets that were angry? What if we just had joyful tweets in there? So that was my idea. Could we create something, and it'd be something that'd be monetized with the web monetization standard, and the idea being is that eventually could pay for some of the services that be used. One of the great ideas with the way that this works is that because this is being paid programmatically, you could in theory have the server that is running this service in turn pay its suppliers. So as part of this, we're going to use one of the Watson machine learning APIs, a thing called tone analysis. And tone analysis is a paid for service, and it does cost per call. So what if you could be paid, the browser would pay the server would in turn pay the APIs that it's using. That's it. You take that sort of forward. If we look forward another sort of 5 or 10 years, you could imagine there could be a lot of services that in turn sort of pay each other as they go forward. So a bit more coffee. This stream might be quite long because I'm gonna try and build this thing during the stream. Normally I try and stick to an hour. This one might go on a little bit longer because it's will be going on I want to try and see how much of this we can get done, so I might be going on a little bit further here. So right, where to start? So I mentioned this Watson tone analysis API. Let's bring that up first here. So Watson tone analysis and Watson tone analyzer. So like I said, this is a service in which you can pass it some text and it will come back and tell you what the tone is. And it's aware of sort of the five basic tones that we have. 7 new tones it now says. Okay, so maybe there's more there than I realized. But the idea being is that it comes back with tones. So it'll tell you whether it's happy, angry, analytical, sad, joyful. And so we want to use that. We want to take the tweets and we want to pass them through there. So the process we're going to do is we're going to write a small little server app. And as you probably know from this stream, I mainly code in Python. This I'm actually going to write in Node.js. So feel free to laugh at me when I get it all mixed up, because I'm not as familiar with Node.js as I am Python. And I've been coding Python for quite a lot recently, and so switching mindset to Node.js, you'll probably find me missing braces here and there and things like that. So, yeah, I'm writing it in Node.js. The reason I'm going to write it in Node.js is because one of the things we need to do is make calls out to the Watson Tone Analysis API for each tweet. And the Watson Tone Analysis API can only take one sort of document at a time. It will break it down into sentences, but it will only take one document at a time. So if we had a timeline, pardon me, with 100 tweets, we would then be doing 100 calls out to this API. And with Python, asynchronous web calls are not that easy to do. There's async.io, AIO, HTTP libraries that are a lot better, but the problem being is they don't necessarily play well with some of the other libraries that exist. So Flask, for example, is the web framework that most people use for small little things like this. And firing off asynchronous processes within Flask starts to get a bit messy. There's another sort of Flask type drop-in replacement I found recently, a async one. Name escapes me right now. What was it? It was a not gallon. It was a measure. Quart. That's it. And so Quart is an async.io version of Flask, which again would be great. And I did have a bit of a play with that. The problem being though is that the OAuth library and plugin that I was using for Flask, OAuth is a protocol we use to authenticate to Twitter, then wasn't playing nicely. So it started to get a whole bit messy. So I thought, I know, let's do it in Node.js as well. So like I said, I'm not as comfortable in Node.js, but we will try and build this in Node.js and see how we get on, because we've got all the parts we need. There's a web server framework. So we're using one called Express. There is a Twitter library, and there's an OAuth library. We're actually using an authentication library called Passport that supports several different authentication mechanisms, but it has a kind of a blueprint for Twitter. It's OAuth, so we'll use that. And what else do we need? Oh yeah, we need a library to allow us to do asynchronous HTTP requests. And so for that, I'm going to be using a library called Axios, which allows us to do that in quite a nice way. So hopefully that's all clear, what we're kind of trying to do. So any questions, feel free to ask in the chat as we go along, and we'll see how we get on. So where can we start? Where are we going to host this? So we're going to host this on Cloud Foundry. Cloud Foundry is an open source PaaS, platform as a service, and that IBM use. Many people have heard, web developers have heard of Heroku. Well, Cloud Foundry was in response to Heroku, and it's sort of an open source equivalent of Heroku, and it's what IBM use for their IBM Cloud Foundry service. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, well, first of all, we'll build this up in stages to kind of show how things go. So what I'm first of all going to do is just deploy a very simple hello world to Cloud Foundry. That way I know that I've got Cloud Foundry working, and I can kind of show you the basics of that. Then once we've got that going, I'm going to try and work on the OAuth bit and get us to be able to authenticate to Twitter. The reason we want to do this OAuth bit is that we want a user to be able to go to this website. So I want any of you to be able to go to this website. It will redirect you to Twitter. Twitter will say, do you want Joyful Tweets, that's the name of this app, Joyful Tweets, to be able to access your tweets? You say yes, and it will then pass a token back to the Joyful Tweets app that in turn will be able to use that token to fetch your tweets from Twitter, all right, from your timeline. And so that's what we're going to do. And yeah, so let's get started. So let's first of all start with a simple kind of hello world app here. So here we go, Joyful Tweets. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. And so what have we got here? We've got a simple hello world app. I've just created the boilerplate of it here rather than sort of type through all of that and sort of slow things down for this part. So it's in a file, server.js, and it's relatively simple here. We're using this require.env, and that require.env allows us, it pulls in the environment variables into the process. So this process that we then reference later on. That means that the port variable it gets from the environment. And the reason we want to do that is when we deploy this up to Cloud Foundry, we don't know what port Cloud Foundry is going to run it on. So when we upload this, when Cloud Foundry runs it, then Cloud Foundry will be able to tell our app, this is the port I want you to listen on because I'm going to proxy some stuff through to you. So .env brings stuff into this process object here. We're using Express, which is this web framework, and we've defined one root here. And so app.get, and so it's the root, and it's just going to return hello world. And again, we get the port, and then we tell it to start running. Okay, so that's all it needs to do. Now I can run this locally, and I can say, so the other files I've got in here, I've got package.json because I installed Express locally. So I did npm I express -- save, and I did the same with .env, right? And that I'm not going to run that because I've run that previously. And that created, and I did npm init, and that creates our package.json file. So that package.json file, if we look at that, you can see it's got some metadata about it, but it has those two dependencies, .env and express. And this is needed for when we deploy it to Cloud Foundry, that it knows what dependencies we want in here and what dependencies it needs to install. So I can run this locally. So if I do node server.js and run it, it says it's running on localhost 8080. So if I go back to my browser, open up a new tab, http localhost 8080, and hello world. There we go. So very simple. That's the app running here. Now we want to get it up to Cloud Foundry. Now, Cloud Foundry, I'm logged into the IBM Cloud console, IBM Cloud, sorry, CLI. So I've done IC login there, and that's logged me into the IBM Cloud console. I have the Cloud Foundry plugin installed as well, which would be plugin install CF. I think that's the command that will install the Cloud Foundry. You can find out a lot more about Cloud Foundry on IBM's website, and I'll show you that in a second whilst this is deploying, because it does take a little while to deploy. So let's start going here. But the main thing that I need is a manifest file. It's manifest.yaml. Now manifest.yaml just has a bit of metadata in for each of the applications. There's only one application here, Joyful Tweets, I've called it. I've said what build pack we need, and it's the Node.js build pack as opposed to Python, PHP, Ruby, Go, or just a straight Docker image for whatever you want to run on there. So that's how you tell it what's called build pack. The command node server.js, so the same command we ran locally, and we tell it how much disk and memory we want to use, and that should be enough. That's probably more than enough, but that's what we need to do. So we've got that. We've got the manifest file, we've got package.json, and we've got our server.js. That node modules directory was created when I installed the nodes, the modules to node. So we can just push it. So if I clear the screen here, IC, so IBM Cloud, CF, Cloud Foundry, push, and that's all I need to do. Hit that, and it will now push it up. So it's saying it's found the manifest file. It's got some information from the manifest file here, and it's installing it, and it's going to set it going at this joyful tweet, and it's put a random bit on the end so there aren't clashes. And I've left that in so that this is all going to be up on GitHub when I finish, and anybody can deploy this themselves. So you can create a IBM Cloud account and deploy it yourself. And actually, if I give you the URL, then you can actually go and create your own account on IBM Cloud. That should be it there. Yeah, so that URL there will allow you to create an account on the IBM Cloud. It's a free account, and there we go. It's finished now. So that was actually relatively quick. It'll take a bit longer when we add some more dependencies in, but it's basically built the whole image there and downloaded all the dependencies and deployed it. So we can now run it. So I can just copy this URL here, or rather the host name, and I can, if I create a new tab here, HTTPS. I'm going to explicitly say HTTPS. You can do HTTP or HTTPS. But if I run that, hello world, there we go. So that's our hello world app deployed to IBM Cloud Foundry. So you haven't had to worry about any operating systems, any servers, anything like that. It's just boom, it's done. So it's running on IBM Cloud Foundry. And we can have a look. If I go into the IBM Cloud console, have I got that open here? IBM Cloud, if I go to cloud.ibm.com and look in here, my dashboard, Cloud Foundry Apps 1. So if I go into here, Cloud Foundry Apps, Joyful Tweets. There we go. That's our app that we've just uploaded, right? And so it's running there. It tells us the health, runtime costs. So there's a free, you get a certain amount of free runtime on IBM Cloud. And then, it can charge you as you want more. Auto scaling, it's got the ability to sort of scale up if you need multiple instances. So say suddenly this takes off. In the old days it'd be slash dotted, and a whole bunch of people then suddenly turn up, and in the old days the server would fall over. No, what happens is I can set it so that IBM Cloud will then scale this up and create multiple instances of this application so that it's still going and reliable. In here in Cloud Foundry, there's some information here about getting started as well. So it tells you how to do the IBM Cloud login, how to target the particular organization and resource group you want to use, the sort of default ones, and that how to install the CLI and things like that are all in there. So yeah, that should give you some information on that. So I'll close down the local host one. We've got our app running. So like I said, that's a very, very simple app we've got there running. It's just this bat, not bot, bat server.js. So there we go. It was just that app there. So right, what to do next? Okay, next up, let's try and get the OAuth working. Now I mentioned a library called Passport, and this passport.js is a authentication system for Node.js, and it has a number of pluggable strategies. So if we go into strategies here, we can see there's a whole load of strategies here that we can kind of choose from. And lo and behold, there we go, Passport Twitter. So we've got Twitter there as a strategy, and that's what we want to use. And if I go into that, actually, no, that's Passport Local, Passport Twitter. I'll close that local one down, we don't need that. Passport Twitter, it tells you how to use it, how to install it. So npm install Passport Twitter, and the configuration strategy stuff there. And it even gives you an example, right? It says here there's an example application somewhere in here. It gives you example express application, and they've actually got it here in their GitHub. So let's take this and use this. So we've got this package.json here that they've got, and they've got a number of additional dependencies in here they're using. So I'm going to just copy those. What I'll do is I'll just go to the raw view here, and I'm going to copy those dependencies, and I'm going to add them in to our dependency here. So package.json, and there we go. We've got express in there twice. We've got .env in there twice, so we can get that those express and .env in there. So we've got those in there, and this is now where I embarrassingly forget how to install the dependencies from a npm file. Somebody hopefully can remind me. npmi is something. Or maybe that's it, just that it. Is that what it is? 19 packages. Maybe that's all you need to do. Added 19 packages from 13 contributors. Okay, hopefully that's it. Like I said, shout up if anybody noticed me doing anything completely daft with Node.js here. Let's see, we've installed that. Oh yeah, we want to get down the example they had here. So in here as well, server.js. So I'm going to grab that as well. So grab that URL, and I'll just move our server.js, server.js.back. I'll get that wget. That'll get us a server.js there. What else do they have? Views directory as well. In there. I could just clone this thing, but I don't actually want to bring down all of their history because I'm going to put this into our GitHub repository, and there's only a few files, so I'm doing this kind of manually here. In views, home, login, and profile here. So let's just grab those. They're all pretty small. And so we get home, login, and profile. So there we go. We've got this server.js file. Let's have a look at it because it's not going to be quite what we need to do, and there's going to be some information we're going to need to give it. So let's have a look in here and see what we've got. So starting off here, a bunch of imports in here. So Express, Passport. We tell it what strategy we're using. So the strategy is Passport Twitter in there. Now this bit, this trust proxy, I'm actually going to get rid of that because we know we're going to want to trust the proxy. So I'm going to delete that, and then the only reference to that is just here. And I'm just going to set that. I'm just going to hard code that to true there. So what is this bit here? So this is where we're telling Passport to use the strategy, and we need the consumer key, which we're getting from the environment, and the consumer secret that we're getting from the environment. And the consumer key and secret, I've actually already put into Cloud Foundry. Now I could show you them if we go into Cloud Foundry, although I haven't found a decent way of kind of doing this without revealing the keys here. Whilst I will reset them afterwards, I'm not going to bring them up here. But if I go into runtime, there's a list there of environment variables. And two of the environment variables are this Twitter consumer key and Twitter consumer secret. And I've got them from Twitter. So what I did is I've gone to Twitter, and I've gone to the Twitter developer portal, developer.twitter.com, gone to the apps section, and I've clicked on create an app. And it said, what do you want your app to be called? It asked me a few questions. Am I using it for political profiling? Quite an apt question right now, I'd imagine. Am I using it for teaching, etc., etc.? What am I looking to do with it? So I answered all those and hit submit, and it was immediately approved. I think it's an automated process. And so here we go, details. And so I have to put in the name. I put in a description, what it does. The website URL, I had to put something in there, sign with Twitter enabled, and callback URL. So this callback URL is where we want to call back to, and there's actually two there. We can probably I could remove the second one there, but I won't do that now because I seem to remember changing this breaks I have to regenerate the token, so I'm not going to do that. But I think that URL, that joyful tweets darling wildebeest, was the one that we had earlier on here, and it's going to log in Twitter authorized. Ed says you got lucky, it manually approved, sometimes takes ages. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on the questions you ask. Sometimes I guess if I answered the right way and it went through pretty quickly. I imagine if I said yes, I'm going to use this for political activism and I'm going to suck everybody's tweets and feed them to a giant brain and take over the world, that they might want to review the process a bit, or not. Who knows? But there we go. So I've created the app already. I did this beforehand because I did expect it to take a while. So I did this last night, thinking that sod's law, I'll go and do this. I'll go and create it, and they'll then sit there and say you need to be approved. I'll be sat here on the stream spinning my wheels for a while. But anyway, and then under keys and tokens, if I click on there, it will give me those two tokens in there: the consumer key and the consumer secret. All right, and all I've done is I've taken those from there and I've pasted them into the Cloud Foundry UI. You can even specify them in the manifest file if you want to. I didn't, because sod's law, I'll probably end up committing that to GitHub by mistake. The secrets in there, I don't want to do that. There's probably a better way of approaching that. I can probably pull the secrets out to a separate file that I explicitly don't commit. But anyway, for the sake of this, we've got them in an environment variable set in Cloud Foundry. And the callback URL, OAuth/callback, that should match, I think, the callback URL I've specified here. Not quite. Okay, so maybe I will have to change this actually, because I've got two different callback URLs here from where I was having a play around last night. I think I've got them slightly mixed up here. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to change that. So let's see. If this breaks, I might have to regenerate the tokens. At the end of the day, if you see the tokens, it's not a big problem because I can regenerate them. The most you'll be able to do is, I think, read my tweets temporarily, which you can see anyway. But anyway, let's go to edit details, callback URLs. So what I need is I actually need the end of that OAuth callback. Copy that. I'll delete that one and I'll add it onto the end of here instead. OAuth callback. There we go, and hit save. So the idea is that OAuth, that URL there, needs to be the same URL that this is pointing to. So I'm actually going to put the full the full URL in there. Actually, if I copy all of that, I'll put this full URL in. There we go. So yeah, now I could put that callback URL again in an environment variable. That probably would have made sense because then I'm not hard coding this in. Well, maybe we'll do that later. I was trying to keep all of the configuration out of this so that when I can put it up to GitHub, anybody can just directly clone it and deploy it themselves. But anyway, callback URL, proxy 2. So what else is this app doing? It's got a function here that is called once the authentication happens, and it gets passed a token and a token secret. Those are different to the consumer key and consumer secret above. So the consumer key and the consumer secret are my credentials as the person running the app and setting the app up to access Twitter. Once it's done the OAuth dance and done the delegation, the keys that come back from here, the token and token secret, are the tokens that allow my app to access the end user's Twitter details. So if you come to this site, then this eventually will get the credentials down that then mean that I can then pass those on to the Twitter API to go and fetch and say, fetch the home timeline for this user, and it will know which user I'm on about and be authenticated and have authorization to do so. So yeah, those tokens come back there, and as you can see, that callback's not doing anything at the moment. We've got two things here to do with serializing and deserializing the user. I'm not even sure if these are needed in here. These are generally if you've got a database. I'll leave them in there for now because I'm not sure what will happen if I remove them from here. I don't know whether they are needed as just kind of no ops or whether they're just in a sort of boilerplate in there. But we'll leave them in there for now. And let's see what else we got. We create the Express app there, so app Express, and we configure our views engine. So these are the views. This uses this templating system EJS to do templating in our HTML. So it allows us to dynamically build our HTML and put values in there. These are a bunch of middleware to do with logging. Again, I've left that all in there as the app has sort of comes with it in there. We tell it to initialize the passport session, to use the passport once it's initialized, and use the passport session. So that's what's going to allow the browser to be able to keep track of the authentication as we kind of go along. And then we define our routes. So we've got, for instance, just the root, so / and that just renders this template home, which we have in there. And if I load that up, remember we copied that down, home EJS, and this is just a very simple thing that basically just says, log in, and if you are logged in, says, hello and your username, right? So we've got that. We've got another one, login, and that logs a few bits and pieces to the console, and then renders a login page. And the login page, again, in this case, just says login with Twitter, because that's the only one we've got. So it's a little bit verbose process, but that's what's got set up here. This OAuth callback, this is what is going to get called back by Twitter with the tokens in, and as part of this sort of OAuth dance that happens. Let me go here. Profile, this is the one that's going to actually display some information about our user once we're logged in. So let's have a look at that. Profile EJS simply displays the username and the name. Oh, sorry, the ID, the username and the name. And if there's any emails associated with it, displays the emails there. And as you can see, there's this require, ensure login, ensure logged in. That basically makes sure that when this route is called, that the user is logged in at that point. So if they're not logged in, it'll trigger the login process to happen, and will redirect you to go and log in. And there's a login, log out that basically destroys our session at the end. So I think that should run basically out of the box. Let's just have another quick look through. All we did was we hard-coded proxy to true. We set the callback URL. The key and the secret we're bringing in from the environment. I think that is everything. So if I save that, and I'm going to deploy that now. Let's make these a bit bigger here. Yeah, so IC CF push, and it should push our new app up. Now this might take a little bit longer. It might take a minute or two to do it, but it's pushing up, and as you can see, it's creating our environment here. So it's looking to see what's there. It's found that we need the Node.js build pack. It's running npm to get the various dependencies, build artifacts, and it is basically, yeah, there we go. There's all our dependencies there that it's installing. It's basically building an image to then run our app from. So how are we doing? Hopefully people are finding this okay. Like I said, any questions? For those that are just joining, to recap, we're building an app to try and display just joyful tweets from our Twitter timeline. So what the app does is the user is going to go to the app. The app will in turn authenticate them via Twitter, go and get their tweets from their Twitter homeline, and then send them to an IBM tone analyzer service to analyze the tone of the tweets, bring them back, and then just display the joyful ones. That's the plan. So this is now deployed. So let's see if this works then. So let's go to our app here. Now if I refresh that, there we go, welcome, please log in. And if I click login, it takes us to the next step which we saw, which is login with Twitter. I click on that, login with Twitter, and fingers crossed. Hello, Haruto. Right, so it took me, you saw it took me to Twitter. Now, I've actually already approved this app in Twitter, so it knows that it knows this app should be allowed access, and then goes through the process and comes back and lets me hear. So if I click on profile, it should have some profile information about me. There we go. It's got my user ID, my username, and my full name, and it's pulled those down from Twitter. So part of what Passport does is it tries to kind of normalize the metadata that it gets from these various services. So Facebook would store it in a different place, Twitter would store it in a different place. It tries to put it in the same place, so you always know there's a user ID and name in the same location. The idea behind that being is you can then deploy multiple authentication mechanisms, and it could do different things. So we could make this, instead of working for Twitter, we could make it work for, say, something like Facebook. And it could fetch posts from Facebook, analyze them, and display them instead. So there we go. So where have we got to? We have a basic app running. We demonstrated that. We did a Hello World app. Now we've taken the kind of demo app from Passport, and it shows you how to do a demo app with Express. We've deployed that up to IBM Cloud Foundry. As you saw, all we had to do was supply a manifest file that we already had from my Hello World app, and we just had to install the packages locally. We need the package.json file with the packages in locally, so we just know which, so that Cloud Foundry knows which packages it needs to install. And that was it, up and running in Cloud Foundry, which is fantastic. So what's the next stage of this? The next stage is I want to try and analyze some tones. I want to try and send the data from the tweets off to well, we could do two things. We could fetch the tweets first, or we could look to analyze the tone. Which one should we do first? Let's try and get the tweets. Let's get the tweets from the timeline first, and then we will work on analyzing the tone. So in this process here, we have logged in, and we got back here a token and the token secret. Now we want to store those in the profile such that we've got them later on for use, because then when we've got them, we can then refer to them later on in our code. So let's just add that in here. We'll put this in. So we'll say profile. Yeah, of course the indents all changing here. Dot token equals token, and profile dot token secret equals token secret. That's all we needed to do. So we're going to save those, save the API tokens from Twitter for later use. Okay, so that means that once they've logged in, we've got that, and the same way that we displayed the name and the email, we now will actually have the tokens that will authenticate us to Twitter, so we can now fetch the tweets down from Twitter. So how we're going to fetch them? We need a API. We need a module to fetch them from Twitter. So there's an npm library called twit that I'm going to use. There seem to be a lot of Twitter libraries that don't seem to be that recently maintained, actually. I mean, this one was last published 2 years ago, but I gave it a shot and it works. So that's what we're using, twit. So we need to install that. So npm I twit. I'll do -- save. That will then put that in our package.json file, such that again, when we deploy it, Cloud Foundry knows that we need to install that. So that's that done. That's that installed, and we need to bring it in here. So here, so var twit equals require twit. Yeah, I think that's all we need to bring that in, and we now want to actually call it. So we want to create a new route in here. We have those routes that do login and stuff like that. So we want to create a new route that will get our tweets. So I'm going to get rid of login actually for now, since we don't really need that, because little login will automatically time out anyway. So we're going to create a new endpoint called tweets in our app. And we want to ensure that the user is logged in. So we're going to copy this require login kind of boilerplate there. And then it gets then needs a function with a request and the response. Same format as above in there, right? And so that's going to get called. Let's just see here. I've got this all in here. I think I've got this all right so far. Yeah, that function is going to get called, and there we go. Right. So what's going to happen in that function? Well, we need to create an instance of the Twitter client. So I'm just going to call that T. That was new twit, and we need to pass in the keys. And if we look at the instructions here, this is why I've called it twit, because we're just going to copy through this. Actually, I should just copy that there and put that in. There we go. So consumer key. So the consumer key, remember, is the one that we get from the process. So we already have that. I think process.env. Twitter consumer key. There we go. And secret is basically that there. Oh, I've got 2 commas there. Let's get rid of that. Consumer secret. And our access token. Remember, we stored that in the user, and we get that back. The user object is attached to request. So rec.user.token. That's why we stored it there. So we've now got it later on. And the secret rec.user token secret. We've got timeout. We said we want to use strict SSL. So that's all fine. I think that's everything we need. Bum, bum, bum. So we've got new tweets there. Right, so what do we want to do? We want to get the tweets, the homepage URL. And again, here, if we look in here, there's details here of how you call it. Basically, you call t.get, and you pass in the endpoint, the Twitter endpoint you want to get. And if you look in the Twitter developer API, it tells you about the various endpoints and the various parameters you might want to pass into them. So what do we want? We want t.get. We want statuses, state us as home timeline. So we want the tweets from a user's home timeline, and we want count. Let's just get 10 of them. And we're going to do this thing called tweet mode. Now, the reason for this being is, as you're probably aware, Twitter's gone through several iterations of its API and several things. And at first, it only allowed 140 characters, I think it was, whatever the SMS limit was. Then they doubled it to 280. And so to keep backwards compatibility, they only generally still return 140 characters unless you put it in this extended mode, and then you get an attribute called full text rather than text, and that has everything else in. So we need to enable that extended mode on here. And we then want to do something with these. We get a bunch of tweets back. In this case, what we can do is just let's see here. Have I ended that? I've not ended that. That should be .get. Oh yes, I need a function here. So that's the signature of this particular API. That's the body content. And it's the end there, so let's get rid of that one. Right. Clean up a bit of white space here. Okay, so that should now be when we get our timeline, then we should have in here our tweets in this attribute data. So what we're just going to do is we're going to return res.json. We're going to return a dictionary, and we're just going to put in there tweets, and we're going to put in there data. Right, so that's going to return a dictionary with a single key tweet, and in there is data. And data is a list of the tweets that show up in there. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I think that should be all we need, and that should work. I'm just, although the OAuth won't run, I'm just going to try start it here just to check if there's right. Requires a consumer key. Right, okay, so it can't start it up because I've not got that defined in the environment variables. But I was just trying to try it to see whether it detected any like totally obvious syntax errors or import errors just before I go and push it. But I should now be able to push it, and again, it's going to push this up to our app. So just to recap, whilst that's running away, just to recap what it's doing here. So we created a new route called tweets. We call this ensure login to ensure that we are logged in. If that fails, what it will do is it will cause the user to be redirected to the login page. And if successful, then calls this function. And this function here, basically, yes, I know I'm mixing syntax between function and the arrow operator. Yeah, like I said, you'll have to put up with my slightly hacky JavaScript here. We create an instance of the Twitter client. We pass in the consumer key and consumer secret that we have from the environment, and that's been put into environment variables in Cloud Foundry. And we get the access token secret, which come from this rec.user. So the request, the user object, which is what we stored earlier on in our initial call further up. So that's what we did there. We stored those so that they're available later on. They're stored on the user object. So there we go. We create our instance there, and we call this status home timeline. We want 10 tweets. We want the extended mode. And if I've not screwed up the syntax, once it's finished that, it should call that method there with that signature, and we should have in data, we should have the tweets. And we return that res.json there. So let's see if we go to here and see our deployment. Yeah, our deployment's worked. Great. So that's finished deploying. So if I go to our go to the browser again, and let's see if I go to /tweets, let's see what happens. I'm not authenticated because I've restarted. Because I've restarted, redeployed and restarted, it's lost the session information, so it doesn't know who I am in the session. So I need to re-log in. Log in with Twitter. Takes me to Twitter, brings me back, and here we go. And I can now view my profile again. But we've got that other URL. So if I put on the end of here, tweets, then hopefully, fingers crossed, if I've got this right. Yes, there we go. If I collapse them all to make them easier to see, we should have collapse all tweets, and look in here, we have our 10 tweets, 0 to 9, and if I open one of those up, we have here a tweet. We've got the full text there of the tweet, and we've got some information there about it. Fantastic. So that's great. So we've managed to authenticate. So we've deployed our app to Cloud Foundry. We can authenticate with the OAuth dance to Twitter. And as a result of that, we get a access key, and using that access key, we can then make a call to Twitter on behalf of that user to fetch that. So actually, this is live now. So if anybody on the stream goes to this URL, they'll get it. Let me just put this in. I'll put this in the stream actually. So there we go. If you go to that URL, and then it should ask you to do the OAuth dance. And the first time you do it, Twitter will ask you and say, "Are you sure you want this app Joyful Tweets to allow access to read your tweets?" And if you say yes, then it will go through and bring you back. And you'll have to manually put /tweets on the end because it will have taken you back to the home page. We haven't done anything nice like put a link in to get to the right place yet or anything. So you have to put /tweets on the end of the URL. But if you do that, you should then get rendered the last tweets from your Twitter timeline. So feel free to give that a try and see how you get on, and hopefully that should work for you. In the meantime, what's the next thing we want to do? We want to analyze the tone. So we've got the full text here, and we now want to analyze the tone of the tweets. So we want to see, are these tweets joyful? So let's see here. We are going to use the Watson tone analyzer, and this tone analyzer, they've got a demo here, so I can just show you what it looks like here. So if I go into view demo, and so I can put in my own text here, and so I can say this thing is really cool, and hit analyze. It'll go away and it comes back, and that is joy. So there we go. Out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, 7 different types of emotion, it comes back as joy, and it even breaks it down to the sentence level to see what is joyful within that. So I could change that. This thing is really cool. I love coding. Cookies are really bad for your health. Maybe I should make something better. All will be good in the world soon, right? So let's analyze that and see what it comes back with. I've put a number of sentences in there, and so here we go. So it said there's a bunch of different ones in here. So analytical. So cookies are really bad for your health. It thinks it's analytical. All will be good in the world is confident. This thing is really cool. Maybe I should make some more things better. That's joyful. There's some sadness. Cookies are really bad for your health. Tentative. Maybe I should make some more. So that's expressed some sort of tentative sentiment there. So this is what we want to do. We want to be able to programmatically send our tweets to this API and find out whether they are joyful. So it's pretty easy to use in here. If you go into IBM Cloud in here, go to resource lists, and you can create an instance of the tone analyzer. And so that should show up here. Where is it? It's Cloud Foundry services, I think. No, services. Tone analyzer. There we go. So there's an instance of the tone analyzer that I created. So I just went and searched for tone analyzer on the top and hit create, and it's put it in here, and it tells me what the credentials are, the URL I need to pass to, the credentials. There's even a bit there about my plan, how many calls per month are free. So you get 2,500 calls per month free, and how many API calls you've made. So according to this, I've used 3% of my plan. Now, actually, if I run this, 2,500 calls, as you can imagine, is not that many. So you know, if we start running this and allow everybody to get to it, then if each tweet is one call, then very soon we're going to run out of calls for this, and they are currently 0.8 cents per call. So that's actually relatively expensive. You know, if I set this going, I could. It's a light plan, so it will not let me spend money, but it could get quite expensive. So I'd probably want to put in some caching to ensure that I'm only, you know, once I've queried the tweet once for one person, I don't then need to query it again for somebody else. We know whether that tweet is, you know, joyful or not. I could also do something else, like run it through a sort of a preliminary check. So there are some libraries that can do, you know, some sort of basic sentiment analysis, whether it's positive or negative. So I could say, okay, only if it deems the tweet positive, and it can do that locally without having to send it off anywhere. Only if it deems that locally positive, do we send it on to the tone analyzer first. What I'm actually thinking of doing is, for next week's show, I've actually downloaded about 800,000 tweets. I set a process going overnight to find all tweets that contain the word joy, happy, I think sad, angry, a few different kind of emotions at both ends of the scale. And I'm actually going to try and write a classifier using Keras to analyze those tweets and try and do that prediction locally. So that's what I'm going to be doing next week, hopefully. So once we get this going this week, this is the basis of doing it with the Watson API, which is much quicker and easier, and you don't have to worry about training it yourself. But obviously you have to pay for it if you're doing a large number of requests. And then next week we'll try and see if we can make our own. It probably won't be as good as Watson Tone Analyzer, but we'll see how far we get. Maybe it can detect joyful tweets enough for our usage. So getting started here, it tells you how to access the API, and you can use something like curl command line URL interface, and you just go to the URL that it gives you in the manage with this extension on the end here, and pass it in the data you want to analyze, and it will come back with a JSON request. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that locally first before I actually add it into this and send it and get it doing this remotely. I'm just going to do it locally just so we can test that it's working okay. So without all the Twitter and the OAuth or anything, I'm just going to try and run it locally just to show what it looks like, so we can have a play with it and see. So let's see here. What do I need to do? So we're going to create a file here called tone test.js, and in there, I've already got an editor open on this window. Tone test.js. Right. So we need to make the call. Now I want to make this call asynchronously, so I'm going to use a library called Axios. So Axios is a NPM library that allows you to do multiple HTTP requests in parallel and get the results back quite quickly. And it handles things like HTTPS, it handles things like authentication very nicely, and it uses a sort of modern async await syntax that JavaScript has. So that just makes that a little bit neater. So we need to install that. So again, npm I axios -save. So there we go. Let's install that, and we're going to need it here. So var axios equals require axios, and let's bring in our environment variables again. What's the save? Somebody says. Oh, the save, --save. So what that does is store store this in that package.json file. So if I look at package.json, look in here, we've got all the dependencies, and you will now see in here Axios. There we go. So what it's done is it's installed Axios and saved the version number of Axios that it's using. Now, the reason for doing this is when we deploy there to Cloud Foundry, then we have Cloud Foundry knows what dependencies to install. So when we do the ICCF push to push it up to Cloud Foundry, it can read this file and go, okay, these are the dependencies, and it will install them. So yeah, cheers for asking, Fabi, and yeah, welcome to the stream. So what do we need to do here? We want .env so we can bring in our environment variables again, because I put the key in an environment variable. .env config, and our get the credentials from the environment. So tone URL, we're going to get the URL as well. I'm going to put that in process.env tone URL. So this just fetches a variable called tone URL out of our environment variables, which we have locally. And hopefully I've actually set that up ahead of time. I think I did. Save these environment variables so I don't have to expose them to everybody watching the stream. But if not, we can hard code them. I can always regenerate them, change them later. Tone key. Put those in there as well. Bum, bum, bum. What are people's thoughts on semicolons? I've never quite understood with Node.js when you need semicolons. It seems like you don't generally, but then occasionally you do. So anybody who's more fluent with semicolons, tell me what is needed, why you need them. So we're going to create our function. I always thought it saved to package JSON without the -- save. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Like I said, I'm not a JavaScript guru. I spend most of my life in Python, so some of the stuff I do in JavaScript, especially with Node and npm, may not be correct entirely, but I put -- save. I think that's needed, but you might be right, Fabi. Maybe it's not. So our function get tones, and so in this, what do we want to do? We need to create a instance of Axios. Well, we don't have to, but this actually makes it a bit easier. So I'm going to say axios.create, because it allows me to pass in some defaults like the authentication that we're going to need to do, because we need to pass in the API key as HTTP basic auth. I've got a timeout in case it hangs for whatever reason. 1 second timeout. And the auth I can pass in this way with Axios. This is what makes this a lot easier than using the HTTP, the raw HTTP library in Node.js. Username, and the username is just actually API key, and then the password is the actual API key that it specifies here, which we loaded above. API key there, so that should create our agent there. So we can now call that. So we want some data, so we're going to send it. So I'm just going to create some dummy data here. I'm going to create a list of several elements, and the Tone Analyzer API is expecting this to be just a dictionary, a JSON dictionary with a single key called text, and then the text in there, right? So I love the world, and we're going to create a second one. I'm going to get all emo. I hate the world, right? So we've got two different emotions there, hopefully, in our data. So we've got a list with two dictionaries in there. And we now want to call it. And again, the reason why I've pulled this out is because I always get promises wrong. So I just thought if we do this locally, then at least I know that it's working before we add it to our app and push it up to Cloud Foundry. At least I know I've got this bit right. So we want tweets, define local variable tweets. we need to await a promise. What we're going to do is we're going to run these all in parallel. So we can call promise.all. And if you're not familiar with JavaScript's promise system, look up promises. Basically, when a promise runs, it comes back with not the actual data, but what is called a promise to have the data later. And the idea being is you can run multiple of them in parallel and at some point then say, okay, return when you've got all of them. And that's kind of what this does. So this promise to all is effectively, what do you call it? I guess a gate it would be in other languages, a fence rather, I think, in which all of these things will run, and then this await here that I've put in basically will wait till all of these promises resolve. This will make a little more sense when I finish typing this up. Async tweet. So we're going to loop through our data. Each one of those is going to be called tweet, and we're going to pass it in. And this is our anonymous function here that gets past each tweet. And so we are going to, let's see here, we need the text. And the text is tweet.text, because we put it in that text attribute there. And we're going to get the tones. Again, I'm never quite sure in JavaScript. It seems like you don't always need to declare variables in Node.js. I think is there a strict mode in Node.js that makes it stricter? Like I said, I hadn't used JavaScript in ages, and I started using it again kind of when Node.js came about, and sort of everything's different from the, sort of learn JavaScript and learn JScript. Remember JScript? I think it was Microsoft's implementation of JavaScript back in the Internet Explorer 3 days, whatever. So tones, we want let tones equal, and again, we're going to call this asynchronously, so we want to wait for it. So agent.post, because we want it to do a post request, and we want to pass it to the tone URL, which we defined further up, and we're going to pass in a dictionary. We want text to equal text that we are passing in. So when that calls, that should do this agent.post request asynchronously, and this await means it will wait until that's actually finished and return it, put the output in tones. And what I want to do is I want to actually annotate our original tweet with these tones. So I'm going to say tweet.tones equals, and then in the tones, there's actually it's actually in a document tone. If we actually look at that, remember we looked at the Tone Analyzer API and tested it. If we look at the raw JSON that comes back, see there's this document tone. So it's in there, document tone tones, and this is the bit that we want here. This list of tones here, so joy, tentative, etc. So document tone dot tones times tones, and then we want to return the tweet afterwards. So we get our tweet, which in this case our tweet is just a very simple bit of text, and we basically do get the text out of it, call the service, bring it back, and annotate the tones into the tweet and return the tweet. And at the end of all of that, so again, like I said, that promise will run all of these. So that promise to all will run all of these. There's two in this case in parallel, and return once they're both complete. And I'm going to log it. Console.log, JSON.stringify. Just make this a bit nicer to look at. Tweets, 4 spaces. There we go. So that's that, and then I just need to call this, so get tones. So hopefully, if I run this, and like I said, if I've got the environment right, well, let's see, we can tell. So if I say tone URL, we'll know whether I've got it right. Yeah, I've got it there. So, moment of truth. Tone test. Let's run it. I've got an error there. Okay, yeah, that should be a colon there, shouldn't it? So text. That should be a colon there. Let's try again. Oh, nearly. Request failed with status code 404. Interesting. So 404 is not found, so that means it's attempted to make that call and it's failed. So what do we get? Tone URL. Ah, that's not the full URL. The full URL needs on the end of it something else. So it needs on the end of it. If we looked in the API docs, the getting started, it tells us view demo. Where was the getting started? We actually need this /v3 tone. We need that on the end. So let's put that on the end there. So tone URL plus that. So now let's try it, see if we get this working. Well, hey! So it's come back with some results. Fantastic. So there we go. It's gone off. We've got our original text there, the tweet, I love the world, and it reckons that's joyous, and I hate the world, and it reckons that's angry. Fantastic. So we've got some data. We're sending it to Tone Analyzer in a parallel fashion using Axios, so that even if we had 100 of them, we would send them all 100 in parallel. So in theory, it should still only take 100, 200 milliseconds to do that, rather than 100 or 200 milliseconds times 100. End up taking sort of 10 seconds, 100 seconds, whatever it is. So there we go. We've got that going. So now what we need to do is we need to basically transplant that into our tweet route. So what we need to do, and if I split this up, server.js. So in our server.js, if you remember, we got the timeline and we just returned the tweets. Well, actually, we want to do something a little more interesting now, because instead of just returning these tweets, what we actually want to do is create our Axios instance and do all of that stuff. So I take from there down. Let's see here. So what was it? Dead map tweet. Oh, that's further up here. There we go. So there we go. We create a password API key. So we need our API key, and the API key we should be getting from the environment. So we're going to need to do that. So I'll do that in a bit. This data here, well, we don't need that because we've got actual real tweets. We've got here, so we've got our timeline. We create our agent there, and let's see here. What do we do? We need to create our tweet. So let tweet prompts API call async tweet. Let text equals tweet text. Well, this is the first bit we need to change here, because it's not just the text that's in there. So status, here we go, let status. Having had a play around with the Twitter API, it's showing there's this extended tweet, and when you do a retweet, it does something a little bit different. So COVID-19 relief. Hi, what are you doing this on? This is, as in, what is this stream on? So we're creating a Twitter bot well, not a Twitter bot, a service that allows you to fetch tweets and only show tweets that are joyful. So here we go. So status equals tweet. We want to look and see if there is this tweeted status, and if not, we just want to bring back the tweet, and then text is status.fulltext. So that should give us the text, retweeted status, tweeted, yeah, that should give us the text. And then we want to do our connection to the, so this is where we connect to Tone Analyzer. So we get tones, and we pass in there, text, we get the tones back, and we add that into the tweet, and we return the tweet. And so there we go, and then tweets, so that just should be at the end there, return tweets. So there we go. How are we doing for time here? I think we're still okay. I don't know if COVID-19 relief, I'm not sure if you're from IBM and if that's a subtle hint for me to get off because there's something else scheduled. Let me know if there is, then I'll hop off. But I thought it was, I checked the calendar, it was clear from going on. I know I'm going over my usual one, but just let me know. If you want, I'll hop off and continue this later or tomorrow. But here we go. I think we have, I'll get rid of that there. And there's tweets, and so that should bring back a tweet. So hopefully that should be, oh no, we need to get the API key, and we need our tone URL. So API key and tone URL we need. So let's do that right up at the top here. We need to bring in Axios as well. So Axios equals require Axios. And then let's see here. So tone URL is process.env. What did I call it for my previous function? It was just tone URL, wasn't it? And tone key equals process.env tone key. Now I think that should be good. The tone URL, tone key. We brought in Axios. I think that's everything. We feeling lucky? Shall we try it? Let's push it up and see what happens. So I see CF push. Just put time in just so we see how long it takes. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. We've just got to do a few more dependencies and stuff now. So we'll see how that goes. So that's just loading that. What's going on? How many people we got in the chat? Oh, a few people in here. So while that's running, just have a look and see. Still building there. As we can see, it's got stuff from the package JSON file, so there will be our libraries we need in there. It's just taking a little bit longer to do that. So I think it's building the new container image, which I'm guessing is taking a little bit longer with more dependencies on it. Went a bit quicker previously though, so I'm not sure why it's... and it failed to start. Okay, so I've obviously done something wrong here, so we can take this command here and this will help me find what went wrong. So bootstrap let tweets equal await. So wait is only valid in an async call. Aha, okay. So with JavaScript, I need to ensure that I've declared the block that this is running in as async. Now I thought I did because I've put it there, which I thought should be sufficient for what we need to do. What am I missing here? Async needs to be up here as well, I think. I think if that's as well async. Yes, because we're doing an await there, so that await needs to have this bit in async, and this await here, that's the async there that matches up with that. So save that, and let's try pushing again. So there we go, it starts uploading and building. Like I said, it takes a little bit of time on this, but hopefully we'll do okay. Out of coffee. Don't worry, this is not beer, this is water. But I find I need to make sure I keep drinking when I do these because I talk so much I end up losing my voice. So there we go, it's installing our dependencies. We'll see how this goes. Waiting for app to start. Okay, that's a bit more positive. And it started. Fantastic. So, looks like it should possibly run. Let's give it a shot. So if we go up here, and if I refresh that, I'm no longer authenticated because I've restarted the instance. Log in with Twitter, take me to Twitter, take me back here again. And if I then put /tweets on the end, it should fetch the tweets. Now it should be relatively quick because it's going off, should be in parallel to the tone analyzer, and should come back. Hopefully. That's taking suspiciously a long time. Let me just go and have a look back at my code and see if I can spot anything obvious I've done there that's made that go slower. So I did have a bit of a go at this last night and got it working okay, I think. So line 10 extended. I'll create an agent. Tones, so we've got our tones there. Agent post, tone URL. Tone URL, we have that defined. Yep. Let me just go and double check in, I'm just going to 1 second have a look and see if I can see in the Tone Services API. I'll just look and see. I'm going to check in our Cloud Foundry app and see whether I've got the environment in there. On our environment variables. So the tone URL I forgot to add on the bit at the end again. I've done the same mistake again. So let's go up the top here, tone URL, and I need in there, what do we do in our test? We did that, we added that on the end there like that. So that's the tone URL there. Right, let's see if that works better. Let's push. Why Vim? It's not Vim, it's Emacs. Or why not Vim, are you asking? Tukagurima. I'm not a Vim person. I'm one of these people that knows how to get out of Vim, and that's about it. I can do a search and replace. I can search and replace, and yeah, I can get to the end of a line and add something. I can go into append mode and insert mode and delete a line. That's about it. But no, I never really got on with Vim, so I stick with Emacs. I did think about using an IDE in these sessions because I might have better sort of autocomplete on boilerplate code, but it seems to work okay just using Emacs. So. Now we're building. Waiting to start, and it started. So let's try again. See if this works. Tweets. Log in again. Do the auth dance. It's done. And then goes here /tweets. That's still taking a while. What have I done wrong? There's something I've got wrong in here because it's really not happy. I'm not quite sure why. I did notice this yesterday when I had a play with this, and then I kind of went through the code, and that's why I pulled it out separately to do that test, was to try and find out where I'd gone wrong. And it started working. I thought I got it working again then. So tone URL, process env. So tone URL, tone key. If anybody spots anything obvious, especially with how I'm using async and promises, I'm quite likely to have done something daft here with them and accidentally made it sequential rather than working in parallel. I'm just comparing this to my notes. Username API key. Password is API key. Did I call it API key? No, I called it tone key. That's where I've gone wrong. Tone underscore URL and tone underscore key. Okay, tone URL. Right. I don't know why it takes so long to come back. And it times out rather than causing an error. Yeah, failed to handle request. You get a timeout. Not quite sure why that is. There we go. Build again. Again, how are we doing for time? Well, hopefully we can get in under 2 hours on this, because I don't want to end up accidentally running over anything else that's scheduled. So if anybody is from the IBM streaming team on, if they wouldn't mind having a look. I haven't got the calendar handy here. I'm just going to have a look at the calendar and see if I can see. While that's building, let me just see if I can find the calendar and have a look and see if I can see what's going on here. Live streaming. I think most people in the US are still asleep anyway. Live streaming session. 8, 9, 10. No, I think I've got a while later. There's a Cloud Pack for Data stream coming up later. Looks like we're okay. So that's finished. Let us try again. Hopefully I've got it this time. So do the OAuth dance, log in Twitter, come back. Tweets on the end. Yes, we've got it. We've got it. So if I collapse all and have a look at the tweet. So look at the first tweet and we will see, let's look at the full text. This is just absolutely, utterly insane. Wow. Well, it's a strong opinion. And if we scroll down, we have tones. What does Tone Analyzer think of it? Well, it thinks there's 2 different tones. It thinks it's analytical and confident. So it's still, I guess that's neither positive nor negative, but it thinks it's positive. Let's look at the next one. What have we got here? Full text. This report states guidance and key policies must be adopted to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on those affected most. I'd imagine that that's probably, again, similarly analytical. What's tones think? Analytical, yeah. Next one, full text. Oh, that's just somebody posting a heart and high five. What's it think of that? Joy and analytical. So I guess it sees the heart and knows that that's joy. That's good. Fantastic. So we are getting the tones from our tweets. So next step, we want to filter out our tweets so that we're only returning the ones that are joyful, because the next stage we want to do is actually pull these down and render them on a page, and we just want the ones that are joyful. So let's have a look at that then. So here's our code here, where we're getting the tones, we're getting the tweets. So we then have our tweets. So we now want to just filter the ones that have joy in. Again, my JavaScript is not great, so I'm actually going to do this on our test, tone test, just to kind of make sure I get this right. So once we've got our tweets here, if I remember rightly, we can do something like this filter. Again, any JavaScript people jump in and tell me if I've got this right or wrong. Tweets filter. Tweet. I think this is right, and I just need something that evaluates to true within the tweet. So tweet dot tone. So I want to iterate through, because there's several tones and they're in a list. So I want to iterate through the tones and return true if there is a tweet in there that is positive, that has joy in there. So let's see here. If I iterate through with a for each, I can do a return on that, but that's not going to do quite what I want, because it'll return. Can you do something at the end of a for each if it doesn't find something? Let me look up for each. Otherwise I'll do a regular for JavaScript for each. Is there like an else on a for each? Else and for each. Certain things in JavaScript just get more complicated. So else is not going to be what I want to do. Well, let's just do a regular for. How do we do that again in JavaScript? For we do something like I equals 0. I is less than tweets dot length I plus plus. I think that's right. If tweets I tweets. So it's the tones I want to iterate over. So for each tweet, I want to iterate over the tones. So it's not the tweets dot length, is the tweet is the tones dot length. And that iterates it. So if the tweet tones I dot what did that look like? The tone analyzer. What did the API look like for the test? Document tone underscore ID. That's what I'm looking for. So tone underscore ID equals joy. So I think that should do it. I think that should do what we want to do. So for length of tones and tweets, each tone, if the tone ID equals joy, return true. So if that ends up at the end, it should return false, which I'm presuming is with the default that the filter will not accept. So if we run this, then hopefully, I think we should just get the tweet that says, I love the world. Let's see what happens. Yes. Good. So that just brings back the tweets. In there that have joy. So that's the code. That's the code we want for the filter. So copy that. Our server.js. So we've got our tweets, and it's in here. We want to do this. So So the ends are, let's give that a different name. Let's call that joy tweets. There we go. That's nicer. Joy tweets. Tweets equals joy tweets. I did have an idea about doing another loop, and if it had anger in it, then remove it, because if it's angry, we don't want to see it. So, you know, maybe we could do that as well. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's add that in. So we're going to do 2 loops. If we loop through, and if we find anger, if any of them are anger, let me just check anger was one of the, it is anger, yeah. So let's say if it's anger, then return false. So if it's got anger in, we definitely don't want it. If it's got joy in, we definitely do want it. And so that'll return our joy tweets. So let's upload that. So I'll push that, and hopefully that means now we should be able to get the tweets back that just look like they have joy in. And then the next step we then need to do is create a JavaScript template to render these to the user. So how are we doing for time? We're coming up to the 2-hour mark. Let's hope we can get this done in under 2 hours. That'd be nice. So quick recap while this is building for any of those joining. So we are using Cloud Foundry on IBM, which is an open source PaaS, to host a small little JavaScript app I've written in Node.js that does an OAuth dance with Twitter to allow you to authenticate to Twitter, such it gets an access key to then fetch your timeline tweets from Twitter, then takes those tweets and passes them through Watson Tone Analyzer to analyze their tone, and filters through them. Any with the tone angry get explicitly removed. Any with the tone joy, it keeps. And so at the end of that, we should just have all of the tweets that have joy in and that don't mention anger. Because remember, we can have multiple tones in. And so we don't want any angry tweets, but we just want the ones that have joy in. It's possible that they could have both, because you could have 2 sentences, one of which that says it's joyful and one of which that says it's angry. So that's uploaded. So let's have another look at our API. Let's go in, collapse all, let's reload. We have to do authentication again. Bum, bum, bum. I'll put it on the end. Tweet, and we should get back. Okay, collapse all. How many have we got? 4 in total. Well, that's good, because we asked for 10, and of the 10, it's narrowed it down. So let's see what we've got back. I wrote a poem from a different perspective than what we're used to. I hope it prompts you to question your own experience. You know, it thinks that that is joyful, maybe analytical, no, tentative. I hope. So that's quite good. What else we got here? New partner. Okay. Well, it thinks that new partner is good. So that's joyful. What else we got here? Full text. Thanks to all those that joined in for Tim Talk Space. So it's on about the space station. That's cool. That's joyous. I like that. And in the tone, sure enough, we have joy. And you see there's a score here. We could actually say we need a certain level of joy if we really wanted. And analytical. And what's this next one saying? Want to learn about central bank digital currencies? Here's a good place to start. So yeah, that's nice and positive. Again, joyous and analytical. Great. So we're able to do this. We're able to fetch a bunch of tweets down and have a look at it. So, like I said, the next step is we want to try and render these on a page. Now, I've actually prepared this earlier because I didn't want to go through doing all the HTML on this, because I thought that'd be a little bit tedious on here. So I should have, I'm just checking in my notes, and I should have a tweets file. Yeah, let's bring that in. So in our we've got this views directory, and what I'm going to bring in go back to our other terminal, views, tweets, EJS. So here's a tweets view that we're gonna bring up now. We've actually called this tweets. We don't want to name the view tweet, so we'll probably put this as our kind of root page, our index. And so what is this doing? There's some JavaScript to load up jQuery, some Twitter platform stuff. There's various different ways in which we could do this with Twitter. I've gone for a fairly kind of ham-fisted approach, but Twitter has a API that lets you render a tweet as a widget. So I'm using that. There's a heading there. We've got a bunch of HTML. And here's our call. When the document's ready, so when the page is finished loading, then do this JSON request to that URL, and that's what we've just got set up. That's the URL we've just created. And then when it comes back for each tweet, create a item in container, which is this empty div up here, and append into there this block quote bit of HTML. And this is just something that Twitter will recognize when I then call this Twitter widgets load. So after we've done all that, then call this Twitter widgets load, and that will then parse through this container, find all of these tweets, and replace them with the actual tweet body. Again, I could get this data. I've got this data already, so I could format it, but rather than me try to format tweets in a nice way, I'm rubbish at HTML. I just thought I'd punt this off to Twitter to do. Twitter's also a bit pernickety about people, how they render them, but you could make it render the tweets in a nice joyful fashion. So we could do them in little, I don't know, picture frames or something like that. So, but this tweets.ejs, so actually, you know what I'm going to do? The easiest thing for me to do here is we've already got a home, I think home, cd views, can't type, home.ejs, that has that login there. So what I could do is I could just get it instead to render our view there. So I might as well just replace this. So let me just move that home out the way, and then I'm going to move our tweets to home.ejs. So there we go, and in our server app we've got that home here where we render that. We want to ensure that it's authenticated though, so I should be able to do this same pattern here, where I'm forcing the authentication. So when we go to the home, should force the authentication, which will do the OAuth dance, and the end of it, bring it back to home, which should be authenticated. We should then see the tweets. Let's see if that works. So if I copy that there, and we'll put this up here for our home. So connect login, ensure login, function render home. And we're passing the user. We're not actually using the user for anything, I don't think, in our template, but I'm hoping to make this pretty later on, don't worry. The actual rendering, for the moment we're just going to get it to display, and we'll see here. So let's do this. What I am going to do is we're fetching just the top 10. I'm going to bump that up to the top 30, the latest 30. Is that everything? I think that should. Let's see if that runs. So let's push that up and see what happens. Let's just have a look through this. Let's look through our home EJS just to make sure that looks sane. This isn't actually rendering anything template-wise. This is just straight HTML. There's nothing additional in here. It's just this bit here. Just make sure that's the right URL that we were calling here. Joyful Tweets, Daring Wildebeest, EQ, Joyful Tweets, Daring Wildebeest, EQ, yeah. Tweets, yeah. And then we're getting out of that data.tweets. So we're expecting something called tweets in there, and we get tweets there. So that should work. I think that should work. Okay, we're pushed. So let's first of all just make sure this still works. Log into Twitter. Actually, it should take us back to the home page. Let's see if this works. So that should now load our Joyful Tweets URL. Is it doing anything? It's not. Let's inspect it and see what's happening on the console, if there's anything there. So what's that doing? Again, if anybody spots anything, speak up. I'm not a particularly good guru with JavaScript, so if you notice anything I've done daft here, let me know. It should be loading jQuery, should be fetching stuff, fetching the tweets and data for each tweet. Data, do we have data here? No. Can we call this manually? Let's see what happens if we call this manually. No, it's not copied. Why is that not copied? Doesn't let me paste in. Okay. What have we got here? Tweets. Let's just check that URL. I'm going to take that URL just to make sure that that's all correct. And if I paste that in, it's taking its time again. It's not returning. So I've broken something in there. What have I broken? Let's look at the logs. See if that tells me anything. Might be a timeout. There we go. Unhandled promise exception. 429. Ah, ha ha ha. I think 429 is HTTP for back off, you've done too much. Probably means I've hit my limit on. That's going to be unfortunate if that's happened right now. HTTP 429. Too many requests. Okay, that probably means that I have hit the number of requests I can make per month on the API, which is unfortunate. So what can we do here? I will, if you just give me a second, what I will do we can change. Oh no, that's, I don't need to change it there. I can change it in the app. Okay, let me just change in the app. Just hold on 1 second. What I need to do is, if I change account, so this is all running in my personal account. I do have another account for developer advocacy, and that account has got a little bit more on it. So hopefully I should be able to see on here. Let me create in here. So actually I can re-enable this so you can see me doing this again. So what I need to do is I need to create a tone analyzer. So if I search here in the catalog, hopefully, tone analyzer, there we go. So if I do this under a different one, so let's see if I do this as a standard rate tone analyzer mat H, I'm going to call that, create it. Blur the screen here while I get the service credentials. And I've created this in US South. Hopefully that's going to work okay, although I'm accessing this from Europe. Hopefully that should still work. So let's see what happens if I... So now I've just blurred the screen while I just get these credentials, because what I need to do is take these credentials and put them into my account, my Cloud Foundry app that I created. So in the Cloud Foundry app, I need to go in here, find my Cloud Foundry app, and I can put it in the environment variables. And so under runtime, environment variables, and I just need to change these variables here. So the tone analyzer key, I need to change. I'll put in the new tone analyzer key, and the tone URL I need to change. And save that. And hopefully, we view here, then still you should be able to see. Let's see here, joyful tweets. Let's see if this works. /tweets. Log in with Twitter. It's not returned yet. Again, let's go to /tweets and see if we can see why it's not returning them. I should have taken those credentials and put them in our test, actually, just to make sure they're working. Check that they work from here. Should do. Just 1 second here. I'll be right back. Okay, back again. We're still not getting a response back here, so I'm still trying to see what's going on here with this. Let's have another look at the... I don't know if I have to redeploy when I've changed environment variables. I wonder if I have to redeploy. Let me push it up and see whether that works. I don't know if anybody knows on the stream, if anybody uses Cloud Foundry, whether you restaging can help with Cloud Foundry. Yeah. So Liam said that. So that might be it. Maybe the I need to do that to pick up the new environment variables. So I'll give that a try and see. Like I said, hopefully this will work. But this is the thing, you see, is that I thought I'd probably hit the limit. Unfortunately, with the testing, I've managed to hit the limit for the API for the free tier. Like I said, next week what I'm going to try and do is create our own neural network that will detect these ourselves, so we don't have to use external APIs. So let's try now. So if I try here, log in with Twitter. This doesn't seem to be working. Liam, do you know if you can access different... Because I noticed I accidentally created this in US South and I'm accessing this from Europe, from GBEU. I didn't look to see whether that should be a problem within Cloud Foundry, whether or not they're sort of firewalled between themselves. I imagine they wouldn't be, because there's services available in some jurisdictions, that some geos that are not in others. Okay, let me just copy these down. 1 second, I'll just blur the screen while I copy these URL and key down, and we'll try it with our test and see if that works locally. And if it does, then we know that there's a problem with our code somewhere, as opposed to there's a problem with the code as opposed to with the app, as in the access code. So I'm just copying the keys down, API keys down. So turn test. That works. So I'm able to access them from here. So Liam says it's not one of the different geo issues, right? Yeah, and I'm in the UK here, EU GB here, and that's the one I'm targeting here. Yeah, I'm able to access this. So that seems to suggest either it's not picked up the new URL or something else is broken in there. Let's look at our log files. Oh, we're so close. So close. 1613. 11. 1611, that was earlier on. So joyful tweets. 502. So that would have been probably our initial redirect. Let's look at our logs again. 1921. Okay. Request failed with status code 429. Too many requests. So, thinking this has still got the old environment. Let's have another quick look in my Joyous Tones app, Joyful Tweets app rather. Connections, runtime. So I've definitely got the key, I've got the URL. Tone key, tone URL. That's definitely right. API key, API URL. Check the MFairs in the IBM CF CLI. Can you do that? Okay, how can we do that? I'm probably going to end up displaying the keys here, but anyway, ICCF. Can I get the environment variables? There's a set env. Oh, env. ICCF env. Show all environment variables for an app. Oh, app name. Joyful tweets. Tone key, tone URL. No, I've definitely got the new ones here. So we'll go back and look at the screen here. We've definitely got the new one because it's a US South, and the key was correct. So why were we getting the 429? Status code 429. Now it says it's updating the app with these attributes. Now, those env variables are not in my manifest file, so I'm not sure where it's getting those from. Maybe it's... Why is it doing that then? Let's finish building. Let's just try again. Maybe that's just nudged it. 720s, we've not got that yet. '16, 1945. Here we go. 429. Why are we getting that? I'm going to drop the number of tweets we're doing down. I'm wondering if, what do we have before? We had 10, didn't we? And that seemed to work. I'm wondering if it's a case of it's rate limited per concurrent requests. Seeing too many current requests. You can unset them as well. Okay. Let's try that. Let's see what happens if I try that. Just I'm going to look at the environment variables we've got. Let's try unset and environment variable. CF restage to enjoy. When you said restage, Liam, maybe I thought a push would do that. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're different. Are they different things then? So I'm trying this restage. So it's destroying the container. I'll be recreating it. Waiting for the app to start. Okay, I'm going to have another look then in cloud and see if we still have the variables showing up. Yeah, I thought they were the same, but maybe they are different. Yeah, could be. Runtime. Environment variables. Okay, that's now definitely removed them from the web UI. So I guess that will now break. But if I now do setenv and set the environment variable, so I've just set them using the CLI and just refreshing the, right, so they don't show up in the web UI yet. It's saying I need to do a restage. So let's do a restage. Let's bring you back a sec. I'll do the restage. It did advise me that the restage was needed, so let's see, maybe this will Maybe this will work again. Maybe that's what was missing. Maybe it was the restage I needed to do in order to pick it up. Maybe they are slightly different. Cloud Foundry restage versus push. Restaging compiles your a new droplet from your app without updating your app source. So you must re-push. Okay, so it sounds like they would do the same thing in this case, just that push will cause it to upload stuff. So restage would be slightly more efficient, but push sounds like it should do what we needed it to do. All right, it's finished. So I'm just going to, again, just double check in here. Right, I've refreshed. I've now definitely got the environment variables in my app. So bring it back again and let's try again. Refresh that. No, still nothing. Oh, we're so close, so close. What am I looking for here? Logs. Okay, well, that's a different error. Error timeout 1,000 milliseconds exceeded. Well, that's a bit better. So it looks like it's just not handled the request. I wonder if that's down to it being in a different environment. Timeout, 1,000 milliseconds exceeded. Oh, haha, ha 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 ha. So that worked. So calling tweets manually worked, and that brought back some tweets. So let's try our homepage again. Haha! It's working! It's alive! Brilliant. Protest in Detroit was peaceful yet powerful. So there's a joyous tweet. Lockdown breakfast recipe. You know, let your guard down and listen. Awesome. Okay, let's just bump this back up while we've got it here, and it's working. Let's just bump that back up from 10 tweets to 30, just to give us a bit more of an interesting timeline. I'll just push that. But it's worked. It's worked. We have joyful tweets. So, you know, if we compare that to my main Twitter's going to do it in a random order, isn't it? Because it's annoying like that. There is a setting to put it in actual sequential order, but it always seems to then end up ignoring that. But anyway, a lot of people I'm following are tweeting about riots and stuff, so and general disorder in the world. So, you know, there's filtering out the joy would give us definitely a smaller subset. That's still pushing up the new values there. So maybe it was the restage. Maybe that's what was needed. Maybe it needed the restage in order to recreate the environment variables, or there was something we did that just sort of prompted it to work. So let's try again. We should get a few more now. So if I reload this page, log in with Twitter, it comes back, and we should have, hopefully. Oh, it's not working now. Why not? Why are you not working? Mm, 429. No, maybe that is it. Maybe I'm making too many requests too quickly. Maybe there is a rate limit on it, and that's what it's hitting. So maybe I do need to take this down to 10 and just keep it down low. Maybe this is just going so fast that it is hitting the rate limit, and maybe that's what it is. I need to slow that down, or there's an internal rate limit. I think within some of the IBM services there's internal rate limiting systems, and because we're doing 10 requests, or we were doing 30 requests simultaneously, maybe that's what it is. I could probably put some throttling in to throttle those requests back. There's a number of throttling libraries you can use in Node I've used before. They can kind of create a queue, and you can just put everything on, and it will then process them, and you'd say, okay, you need to only do more than 10 requests a second or something, and it'll do that. But if we get this working, I'll be happy. Like I said, next week I'm going to be trying to create our own neural network to do this, so we don't have to rely on third-party API. The Watson Tone Analyzer is great if you were sending a larger body of text or not sending stuff so rapidly. But I think in this case, I'm hitting the limits, and as well some of the internal rate limits within Cloud Foundry, it looks like. So that's then pushed. So now let's try again. There we go. Yep. So it's working. So feel free to give it a try. Go to the URL and see if it works for you. This is where I completely break everything. Yeah, there's the URL. Give it a shot and see if it works, and hopefully you will get some tweets come in. So we're fetching 10 tweets and filtering them out. So in this case, there was only one of the 10 tweets in my timeline is deemed joyous. Don't know whether what that says, but reload again and see if it comes up with something different, or just hits an error again. Maybe I've hit a rate limit again. Or maybe there's no joyous tweets now. Maybe that's what it is. I should put in something that actually returns and says how many joyous tweets were returned, and then would actually know when it's finished how many there are. Oh, it's returned quite quickly with just one. There's a different one though, so maybe that is. Yeah, there we go. So I am road smart. So it looks like it's rate limiting. So I think I'm just hitting the internal rate limits within IBM Cloud, which stands to reason. There's probably an internal rate limiter in there that when I did 30 requests simultaneously, it was hitting. And so if I can slow it down a little bit, it might work better. When I was testing it last night, maybe I was just running a bit slower somehow. I think I'm still running it from the same environment. Oh, you know what? Actually, because I'm making the call to US South, maybe it's going externally and hitting a rate limiter. Maybe if I created this the new tone analyzer within the EUGB area, it wouldn't have to go outside between two different geos, and then it wouldn't hit as many rate limiters. Maybe I'll have a look and see. But anyway, wow, that was. I'm gonna wrap this up now, since we've been going for 2.5 hours. So thanks everybody for being on the stream and coming along and watching. So again, just a kind of a quick recap. It was creating a just a little app that would display tweets that are deemed joyous, and so we did it using IBM Cloud Foundry and the Watson Tone Analyzer. So IBM Cloud Foundry is IBM's PaaS, and we created a Node.js app using Express as a framework. We uploaded that, and that was using Passport, which is the OAuth library, to allow us to do the OAuth authentication with Twitter. That would allow us to do the kind of the dance to Twitter to get the API key for the user to allow it to fetch tweets from the user's timeline. It would then use the Twit library to fetch the tweets down from the user's timeline. And then we used Axios, which is a HTTP library, to do the parallel requests to Watson Tone Analyzer. And unfortunately, the first time we did it, I obviously exceeded my limit on my free account there. So I then created a paid account and tried it under there. And I think I then hit a sort of per second rate limit as a result of that. We've not put any particular error correction in or error handling in. So when the timeouts were happening, it was causing the entire thing to time out, rather than kind of coming back and saying, no, that one particular request is timed out, but you can still continue. So that's what the issue was. But there we go. Thanks very much. Tune in next week as well. I'll be streaming again next week from the same sort of time. A shorter stream, hopefully. But yeah. And if you want to have a go of any of this yourself, there is a you can sign up to the IBM Cloud free of charge and have a play around with this. All of this will go into a GitHub repository. So there's a GitHub repository under the IBM developer for this show I've got called ML for Everyone. And in there is a list of all the previous shows as well. So there's videos there as well. So if you don't catch them on Twitch, they only last on Twitch for a certain amount of time, you can get them there as well. So I will put that in there as well in the chat. And again, feel free to like the channel, subscribe to it, and you'll get notifications when any of the IBM developers go live on the stream channel. So with that, thanks very much. And keep an eye on here or on my Twitter account at the top there you see, and there'll be a link to the write-up of this and the final submission to the Dev and Grant for the Web hackathon with this in, and we'll see how it goes. So thanks very much, and see you next week.